Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jerry Bees. I know that maybe some of you haven't seen me in a while, given if you are a Swiftie, a Taylor Swift fan. Maybe you've seen my most popular series, The Straight White Male Reacts to Taylor Swift. We started that journey and we ended that journey. Now, I'm kind of done with the whole straight white male moniker. I mean, I'm still straight and white, but that's like besides the point. The real point is that Taylor Swift is dropping a new album this year, The Life of a Showgirl. Max Martin is back behind the booth. I couldn't be more excited for that. I know you're very excited for that. And to capitalize on said excitement, I thought it would be a great time to revisit the Taylor Swift catalog and let you guys know what I consider to be my favorite Taylor Swift songs. Now, some disclaimers here, right? I'm not saying that these songs are the best. I'm not saying these songs are the goodest of the good. Much like the last top 10 video I made on the top 10 favorite albums that I've reacted to here so far, I have my own reasonings for something being my favorite. I think a lot of the time here on the channel, it's not necessarily talking about whether something's objectively good or not, but how it equates to me, and I think that's just a better way to engage with music. Making a top 10 list might not be the best way to engage with music, but I think it's very fun. I think you guys think it's really fun, and so that's why I'm going to do it. The one thing I will say, with ranking songs instead of albums, there's just inherently more to speak on with albums than there are songs. So this might be a little bit more brief, but if you have any follow-up questions for me from anything I say about any of these songs, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below. I will say that I think upon revisiting even reactions that I had done, there were certain songs that grabbed me right away, but given some time that I've had to stew and really engage with broad Taylor Swift discography, some songs have kind of risen to the top for me and have kind of stayed with me more nowadays than maybe they did before. But like always, and I'm pretty sure that you might be able to relate to this, sometimes your favorite song or your favorite album, it changes on any day, right? Like I'm on a massive Strokes kick at the moment, and I don't typically always listen to the Strokes, but right now, I'm like, God damn it, the Strokes are so good. Let's get into it. Here are my top 10 favorite Taylor Swift songs. I think that this is probably my favorite collab, maybe even the best collab in all of the Taylor Swift discography. It's one of my favorite songs on this album. Ladies and gentlemen, coming in at number 10, we have Nobody, No Crime. I think I actually misspelled it there. It's not nobody, it's nobody. Now, if you haven't listened to that song, that might not make any sense. But if you listen to that song, this spelling error makes a lot of sense. So let me go ahead and fix that real quick. Yeah. So Nobody, No Crime. It's no mistake that I thought, Folklore and Evermore, it's hard for me to differentiate those as, two separate albums entirely. There is so much similarity between those two projects, given the sound and the direction that Taylor was going in. There was just a lot of time to just sit down and write songs. And I think that Nobody, No Crime is a great example of a device that Taylor is usually pretty good at. I know you can talk about the narrative that extends throughout the whole of, Folklore, but when it comes to individual songs and the narrative in the song, I think that that's one of her strong suits, and Nobody, No Crime is just one of those. I feel like, there's no room for spoilers here. If you're watching this video, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But this story, that it's a tumultuous relationship to say the least. And let's say, the man in it, they get their just desserts at the end. It's a revenge story, but along this rhythm and this country pop beat that's so infectious. It's basically they just shot Before He Cheats by Carrie Underwood straight into that song's vein. They knew exactly what they wanted to emulate there, but I think they made it their own. And I know I'm saying this is supposed to be a Taylor Swift countdown here, but that collab with Haim, that's right in their wheelhouse. Within that sound, they do this not funky, but this rhythm-driven pop rock and kind of color it with some country. I think it was great. Taylor's best when she's at her cheekiest. Taylor's very cheeky, and I don't know if I said that enough throughout my reaction series, but while developing this list, I'm like, damn, I think I like those songs where Taylor's the cheekiest. I think the way that we go through the story and how the information is laid out is kind of cheeky, and that's especially true for our next song. So with this next song, not only do we get into more of that great storytelling, a little bit more cheeky nonsense going on, it's also a kind of a stronger country song from Taylor. It happens earlier in the discography from a project that, I mean, relatively speaking, didn't grab me as much as some of Taylor's other projects have. But coming in at number 9, the titular track off of the album, ladies and gentlemen, we got Speak Now. So like I said, after some time, I really do think that this is probably my favorite off of Speak Now. At least it's the one that whenever I think of Speak Now, I think of it. Now, I know that's easy because it's the titular track. But again, it's that storytelling and, what's the story? It's a story of, hey, if you have any objections to this marriage, speak now. But there's another layer to it. So like I said, like this cheekiness, this line about, the organs playing and it sounding like a death march. It's such an easy comparison to make, especially if you are the party that doesn't agree that this should be happening. Oh, you should be with me, kind of a deal. It's messy and it's really fun, but it's not like messy like in an aggressive tone that maybe like I feel like you can make a punk song out of this and you get the same message, but it's that playfulness with like kind of the country tone that again just adds this cheekiness. I'm gonna try and not say cheeky anymore. And really for me, and this is why I really needed to, disclaim that this is my favorite, because this song reminds me of one of my favorite movies of all time, The Graduate. If you've never seen that movie, I don't want to spoil too much for you, but the ending of The Graduate is a lot like this song. So as I'm listening to the song for the first time, I'm thinking about one of my favorite movies, and I'm really jiving with how the story in this one's laid out, a little bit, like she there's like the line, she's like kind of like hiding behind the curtains or something like that. It's just fun and it's really quite easy to like. Speaking Now, the song never gets enough love. That's a shame. That's just a damn shame. When I reacted to the album that this next song is on, there was a lot to talk about, and that will become apparent here in a second once I tell you which song it was. And it's unfortunate because this song kind of got lost in the rubble of all of that. There was just so much going on. It is a great album from Taylor. I believe it is one of her best. But as time went on, I forgot all about the song. I went camping for like a week and a half, and we were with another party, and they were playing songs off of their playlist from their speaker. And there's this one song that kept coming on that not only just like added to the atmosphere of like the camping scene, but made me look back at the album and go, this was actually probably my favorite song on the album. Like looking back, ladies and gentlemen, coming in at number 8, we have The One. It got lost in the sauce because it's the first song on the album. The narrative and all the different points I tried to make. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch my reaction. But in effect, I thought that there was so much in that album that related to the quote-unquote main storyline between the 3 songs, August, Cardigan, and I'm sorry, the other one escapes me. I'm not an expert. Maybe I'm not a true Swiftie because I forget the name of songs, but I forget the name of songs all the time. But there's something that's like so cozy about The One, and I think a lot of the soundscape in folklore, and given that this song perfectly sets up the tone for the album. But other than that, and excuse me, I got my famous legal pad here, so I do have some notes. Like, it's cozy, but like it's rainy outside, but also chicken soup. That's what this song does to me. I'm like sitting around the fire or like just sitting around like wasting time, and then this song would come on. I'm like, yes. Just sitting in the hammock, just having a great time. And oddly enough, the song gives me a lot of nostalgia. It has this like Norah Jones, early 2000s, easy listening appeal to it that brings me back to when I was a kid. I was a youngin' in the early 2000s. So I do think that there is like this sense of nostalgia that this song brings out in me. And I don't know, I just feel very safe with it. And again, it's a shame that I really missed it entirely. But I think that's maybe credit to how good of an album Folklore was, that there was just so much. But hearing this song in isolation really made it stand out for me in the long run. One is the false sense of security Taylor's gave us before swinging the sledgehammer. That is the rest of Folklore. Exactly. And like looking back again, it sets up, I felt like it set up the tone for, honestly, both Folklore and Evermore, just that whole era, if you will, so perfectly. So we'll move on to number 7 here. I was surprised, as maybe some of you will be, that a lot of the songs in my top 10 are a little bit more even-keeled. I think that was something where during my initial reaction to the albums, there are, again, still probably some slower Taylor Swift songs, maybe off of Tortured Poets Department especially, that just didn't hit me the way that maybe some of the more high-energy tracks on 1989 hit me, or Reputation hit me. But again, the more time I spend with just any artist's work, the more time I have to think about it and relate to it. And one of the things that I've really come to appreciate about Taylor in her dynamics, which is, and at this point, it's like, what else can't she do, or what else hasn't she tried? But it's when we hear the lower register in her voice. And that kind of came out a lot in this list. Ladies and gentlemen, at number 7, we have Champagne Problems, but it ain't a problem because this song rocks. Again, I am so excited for Max Martin to come back with Life of a Showgirl, just given, the album cover that we have with that. It's probably going to be, high energy pop again. And, after the last couple albums, I think we're, very excited to get back into there. But that isn't to say that she still doesn't have this great command of slower songs and not doing too much with her voice, because Champagne Problems, hands down, is one of my favorite vocal performances from Taylor Swift. It's the pace of the song, so the tempo of the song with the melody, not just in the chorus, but in the verses as well, and just the complete command with that lower register. We know that we can have fun, but right now, hold the phone. We're not like, we need to kind of think about and stew in maybe some shit that we don't want to think about, And then, towards the end of the song, we get the vocal layering back. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that this is, that Evermore is the only album to have 2 songs to be featured on this list. I get this song stuck in my head fairly often. If we're talking about any Taylor Swift song that might be stuck in my head, it's the chorus to Champagne Problems most of the time. Let's see. Taylor Swift hyped it up on the Eras tour, but it's far from being a highlight on Evermore, in my opinion. I don't know how that's not the case. To me, I know that there was a lot of hype for the song, and with how fervent you Swifties are, there's a lot of hype for a lot of songs, but this is one that ended up really sticking with me for a while, and probably much longer to come. And again, as a reminder, this list can always be in flux. I've been working on this list for probably about a month now, on and off, just making sure that I, felt good about where everything sat. Moving on to number 6 here. There was a lot to love on the album that this song comes from. I've talked about it at length, but one song stands out a little bit more than the rest, because I think that on the whole, if you just asked me if I wanted to throw on a Taylor Swift album, it'd be this album. So a lot of the songs entirely aren't ones that like I'd listen to in isolation, except for 1 or 2. And I think this one is a standout for me. Ladies and gentlemen, coming in at number 6 is Bejeweled. Now, I know I'm not really playing the Taylor Swift songs on this stream, but if you would so kindly allow me for one moment, just for one moment in time, to play you the moment of this song that I love the most, and fuck you, because it's the only reason why this song is on this list.
they shimmer. And when I meet the
That's it. Her vocal, for some reason, the way that she says, I can still make the whole place shimmer. I don't know what it is about that line delivery, but it's the best.
I can still make the whole place shimmer. And when I
And, you know, again, I think the production on this album, I love Midnights. It's the best Taylor and Jack have ever done together, in my opinion, or at least it's my favorite, again. So I think this song is a pretty good representation of the album as a whole. But it's that driving beat, heavy synths, but they're not, I should say the song is synth heavy, but the synths themselves are not very heavy. They are kind of laid back in the mix still, so nothing's like too crazy. This is like the cool album. And I think that this song, for me, kind of embodies the whole feel of the album with one of my favorite vocal deliveries in her discography. Yeah, and that's basically it for this song. Jerry is never avoiding the glitter gel pen accusations. Haven't been called a glitter gel pen boy in a while. But, hey, I will take that title happily. You can just say shimmer for your reason and we'll agree. But that's really it. Once we were done with that album, like the stream, I just listened to this song like 2 more times. I know that this is a top 10 list, but I would be remiss if I didn't say that this list is very top heavy, because the top 5 are some real heavy hitters. No tie. This is the Olympics. There are no ties. But maybe, I didn't hate Tortured Poets Department. It was an album for the fans. That's what I said, right? I think there was a lot to enjoy there still, but I found myself missing that high energy Swedish pop that we had once gotten once upon a time, and maybe we didn't get it as often as we wanted to, but at least we got it. Ladies and gentlemen, coming in at number 5, we have Out of the Woods. I love this song. This is such a good song, but I'll be honest with you, for a while, I couldn't put a pin into why I loved this song so much. And I think it is because it's so percussive. The percussion is almost tribal to a degree. It just leans so far into those beats. But more than anything else, the production is layered. So we've come to expect vocal layers and maybe a couple other production things, especially when Jack Antonoff comes around with the synths. But the percussive layers in this song are really quite something. And, it's another, narrative song, hi, Harry Styles, how you doing? But there's a point to where your favorite songs are your favorite songs for any which reason. And this one's just so much fun. This one is like, if I had to make a Taylor Swift gym playlist, it'd be like Out of the Woods 100 times in a row. This is a very stimulant song for me. It's not necessarily very technical percussion, but it's just layered in such a way that just meets my ears so damn well. Again, it's this driving beat that just pushes us around. And then, towards the end of the song, and we get some of the other vocal layers coming in where she's just kind of shouting, or, not shouting, but just belting. Really, Taylor's belting in this song. And it just makes it feel so much more epic, Vocal layering on the last bit of that song is 10 out of 10, 100%. And that's, again, another common theme. Taylor doesn't have a bad voice, but I don't think that, she is necessarily known for being like, if it's between like Taylor Swift and Whitney Houston, you're not like, that's just not a fair comparison to either of them, but it's Taylor and her team. And this was one of the points that I made at the end of Tortured Poets Department, in my recap of the journey entirely. It takes a good artist to put good people around them to make sure that they're making the best possible track, the best possible album, the best possible anything. And I think Out of the Woods is a fine case for that. Number 4 might be a little bit random. I know that we've listened to some of the regular Taylor Swift albums, right? So the ones that don't have Taylor's versions, and we listened to the ones that did have Taylor versions. So here and there, I have listened to the non-Taylor Swift version of things, but my journey with Taylor Swift had the stipulation that if there was a Taylor's version of it, I had to listen to it. It's not that there's so much difference in between, like maybe the non-Taylor versions versus, like the Taylor's versions. But for me, if there's any Taylor's version that got to my heart, that made me move my little white butt more than any other, it's Girl at Home. And you know what? This is the part of the show where I'm going to start giving air horns. There's a lot to say on this song. I'm going to kind of not follow at least like how I have the notes here in order. One of the things I love about this song the most is that I think that the lyrics are still very awkward. Taylor does have a very strong command of lyrics. I think we can all agree with that. They kind of fit weird into this song. She's talking about how, she's always doing what's like upstanding and right. Maybe you could have said that a little bit more subtly. All right. That's like not something that's like terribly offensive to lyricism, but it's the line. It's like, this I've previously learned before the chorus kicks in. And it's just, there's something very awkward about that. Like, it's like too many words and like not the right words. Again, poo-poo on me for maybe not explaining why that doesn't fit in a way that wouldn't feel awkward, but it's the awkwardness given the subject matter. So, it's getting hit on when that dude's got a girl at home, right? And like, no, I'm not about to play homewrecker here. So Message is great, but then otherwise it's just a terribly fun song. Like I don't have any guard up with this. There's no nose that I hold high. It's like, oh, like I think there's like awkward songwriting, so it's bad, and I'm gonna poo-poo it for that reason. No, that's actually kind of the reason why I love it so much, because I don't think anybody else could have written this. This was like, Girl at Home was really the start. I shouldn't say that, but this was one of those early Taylor Swift songs in my journey that I was like playing as I was like driving around. This was a good one for me. Yeah, and I've heard the original version, but I think it's the somebody said the yassified version of this song that I just really jive with, because that was the first one I had heard. It's all preferences here. It's all preferences here. I know this is a brave video to make. OG Girl at Home sounds like she wanted to make it more pop, but Big Machine said no, too much pop already. Fuck them. That's what I got to say. Fuck them. If any of you have a sharp memory, you will be able to clock this as I introduce it. But this was the song that I came into my journey with by saying that this was my Taylor Swift song. You couldn't do a Taylor Swift discography journey without at least hearing some songs, because they're everywhere, right? In some way, shape, or form, a Taylor Swift song, even if you've never listened to the album, any of her albums. But for me, this one came out when I was in high school and had a lasting effect into my adulthood. And it's one that I think I was worried that it was going to get taken off of the list, just because there were songs that like, oh shit, I really like Out of the Woods, or I like Girl at Home. Well, this one's staying where it stays, I think for good reason. It's a bop. It's one of her biggest tracks ever. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Blank Space. We got Blank Space. This is one of those songs that feels like it's a little bit too big to just be a song. There's this epic nature to the progression of this song that just makes me feel like it's just in a box and it's just waiting to explode. And, maybe a little unfair to a lot of the other songs on this list, or really a lot of the other Taylor Swift songs. But my real first valid exposure to this song, we actually analyzed the music video in class. So I think it's even kind of weird that my experience with the rest of her discography was me sitting down in a chair and, you all watching me watch it. So I kind of have a really weird experience with all of these songs in comparison to just listening to them in my own time. but this is one that has stayed with me for a long time. I think this is also another one of those songs that maybe people, if you don't like Taylor Swift, this is one of the, you hear like, oh, boys only want you. You like that kind of like, oh, there she goes again, but I think there's this air of cheeky. There's this air of, if not satire, it's just owning the narrative. And this was in that time, I think, of her career where she really tried to reel that back in. So it's one of those songs where I like the song in and of itself, but it is probably the song more than any other throughout her discography that I can say, like, it's the story behind the song there for me. It's when I listened to it, how it was kind of like the lasting impact that it had just as me listening to, if I was going to listen to any song from her, it was going to be this one. The definition of a banger. Honestly, I think Blank Space is like a top 3 pop songs of all time. It's one of them. I mean, it's a great track. It's almost like a perfect pop song in that way. Blank Space is probably the Taylor song. I think there's a strong argument to be made there. I wouldn't say that definitely, but there is a very strong argument to be made. We're moving on to the top 2. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't have notes for these next 2 because I can tell you that any one of these is probably my favorite Taylor Swift song. Although recently one edges out the other, but I don't necessarily need a ton of notes. Let's just say. Number 2 is a track that I had never listened to before we started the journey. It happened pretty early on in the journey and was one of the, like, I feel like there were times in the journey when something clicked for me. I think a little bit more simply and a little bit more foundationally, this was a song that I was like, okay, she's got some real writing chops, and it happened real early on to really sell the case. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about debut supremacy. We have Our Song. Our Song, I argue, isn't necessarily one of Taylor Swift's best songs. I think it's one of the best songs of the early 2000s, if not one of the best country songs of the early 2000s. And it's hard for me to not just isolate it into the song itself. This song gets number 2 just isolating the song itself. But to think that she was so young when she wrote this, and again, it's one of those where it's not a specifically like narratively driven song, but there's a story within it. We don't have a song. What's our song? And it's that wordplay, like, no, our song is the music of our lives. It's the screen door, it's talking low on the phone and your mama don't know, that kind of thing. And it's not only the wordplay, but it's how the song progresses. It's not a very complex song, but it is a damn near perfect song. And I will usually defend my reasoning for this. There isn't usually a perfect album. It's really hard to pin down a perfect album. There's a lot of room for error. There's usually some time in the length of an album to where it goes, okay, it's not perfect, but on the whole, god damn, is that a near perfect record. And I say that with a lot of my favorite albums of all time. But I think it might be a little bit easier of a case to build what a perfect song might be. And Our Song is one of those songs. It's perfect. It just is. And I think it's not only the perfect song for when she wrote it, teenage, superstar, country pop, let's get out there, let's have some fun. And I think for a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old, this was smart songwriting. But coming from a 16-year-old, can't even legally get drunk yet, you could see the beginnings of something great. And I think you can isolate it down into that one song. The fact that she wrote it, perfect song at like 14. See, there you go. I don't know how you don't at least tap your foot to this shit. Number 1. This is a weird one for number 1, I think, because it's not necessarily a hit. It's not necessarily even from one of her biggest albums. And I do recall being impressed with the song when I first heard it, but the more I listen to it, the more I'm like, this is my favorite Taylor Swift song. And without any more preamble, ladies and gentlemen, my favorite Taylor Swift song besides our song, but on any other day, it's Lover. 100%. It is my favorite Taylor Swift song. I mean taste, but wow, what a curveball. And that's what I was kind of worried about. I was kind of worried about the reception for this. I think I can break it down like this. Knowing that before going into Lover, that there were some mixed reactions to the album. People said it wasn't either their favorite or it's definitely like not the best. I came into it just to have a good time, as I did with actually probably all of the albums. If anything, it was a good time, right? And we had a good time with Lover. But this song it is kind of separate from the rest of her discography. Not necessarily from the country stuff, because this fits right into the country stuff. This song is like, you're like lonely at a bar, and you're thinking about all of your woes. And maybe you have some type of emotional breakthrough, but it hasn't happened yet. And you're sitting down and you're listening to this song, and then it happens. I don't know how many of you are aware, but there's like a country western artist by the name of Townes Van Zandt. Townes Van Zandt writes really depressing music. Listen to the song Dead Flowers. I think that Dead Flowers and Lover have like a lot in common, except for like Lover, you could also use it as like a wedding song, an engagement song, like a song between you and your person, but also like there's this sense of like like dread and loneliness to it, because you could be calling back to like some memory if you're dealing with a broken heart or something like that. I think it plays at both of those ideas pretty well. And this is one of those where it's her lower register, but it's stripped down production-wise as well. It's stripped down instrumentally, it's stripped down production-wise, and I think this would be a song, you know, I know there's that famous acoustic set that she did in Paris, I do believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that this would have paid for the ticket. If I got to see this, if I can just get Taylor Swift, if I get to see Taylor Swift live, acoustic, and she plays this, I'm set. The country stuff with Taylor that I do like a lot, but you might think, okay, maybe just the country pop, because there is so much country pop. But I'm telling you, if it's not me calling upon Taylor to make more pop stuff or coming out with like a hard rock record, which I think would be crazy, that'd be like Reputation Part 2. A straight up sad country. You know, you could maybe make the argument that there was a little bit of that in Evermore and a little bit of that in Folklore, but nothing that really comes close atmospherically to Lover. Did you listen to the dance remix of this song? It's even better. I disagree because the sullen, depressing side of this song just sends it for me. It like, man. And there's like, I don't know how they recorded this song. Like there's like some type of reverb or resonance to this song that makes it feel like she's like playing in a bar or something like that, or like a small town hall or something like that. So it even like puts me somewhere that I'm not. And I think whenever a song can put you somewhere that you're not, that's the telling of a good song. It's subjective. It might not be the best, but it's definitely my favorite. Again, these are just my favorite songs. Maybe like you, these are always kind of in flux. So if you disagree with me, what are some of your favorite Taylor Swift songs? What songs do you think should never be anybody's favorite song that maybe were my favorite songs? And let me know your reasons why down in the comments. Also, and this goes for everybody here, do not forget to pay attention to my stream schedule that I'll be posting here on YouTube and for free on Patreon when I announce when we're going live to react to The Life of a Showgirl, the new highly anticipated Taylor Swift album, probably going to be the release of the year. So just make sure that you pay attention to when I'm doing that. Let's get the gang back together. But with that being said, I've been Jerry Bees. You've been awesome. Take it easy.
Diggity dog. Breaking. Diggity dog. Breaking. Diggity dog. Breaking. Diggity dog. Breaking. diggity, dick,